Hello and welcome to Travel John's podcast. We are two traveling Indians, Huma and Sudeep. In this podcast series, we bring to you destination insights and interesting stories relevant for Indian travelers. We have been traveling for last 15 years, have been to almost all states in India and to as many as 30 plus countries around the world. We hope that listening to our experience will help you plan better and travel more. In today's episode, we'll talk about the scenic road trips within India. One way we can still enjoy travels during these restrictive and lockdown periods. 2020 hasn't been easy for most of us. Travel industry has taken a big hit and people are still scared to travel. Though most travel lovers would really want to get out, feel the wind in their hair, sun on their face, sand under their feet, and the aromas of nature in their nostrils. There's so much that each one of us would want to do when the times change, isn't it? But till then, is there a way to make the best out of what there is? How about road trips? Let me talk to Sudeep about this. So, Sudeep, tell our listeners how feasible and realistic are road trips today.
Well, road trips today are the safest. In a way, you travel with your own secure bio bubble. You cover a distance at your own pace and comfort, a destination of your own choice, of your own will and endurance on driving, be it cars or be it bikes. Today, most roads across the country are in very good conditions and with less traffic on the roads and a heightened sense of hygiene across the country thanks to COVID, makes stopovers and pit stops very safe. So I would probably take a wager and say that this is the best time to go for road trips in India.
So, you're saying road trips are safe. In that case, where should one go now?
Road trips are a destination in themselves, so it's not about the end point of reaching somewhere, but the whole journey. India is the land of perhaps more than 100 hill stations, 100 beaches, thousands of homestays, sites of pilgrimage, adventure, and whatnot. So there are so many places that one could go to in India on road trip. But having said that, I think there are certain journeys in many parts of our country which in totality are a huge draw for road trips. And I think almost certainly everyone has their own top 10 road trips. And I think almost certainly everybody is right in saying so.
So, you would have your own top 10 list like mine. Which one is your topmost, Sudeep?
I have a top 7 because I couldn't compare any more in India. Those reflected the same majesty as my top 7. The topmost on my list is a 70-kilometer stretch right at the India-Tibet border in Arunachal Pradesh, and it is between a place called Zimithang and Tawang. Zimithang is almost at the border with Tibet. In fact, it was the site of one of the first clashes during the Sino-Indian War in 1962, Khinziman in Zimithang. That place now has an impressive monastery, an amazing scenery of the eastern Himalayas rising up, waterfalls, forests, and narrow winding roads. The roads from there in Zimithang wind up the mountains into a monastery also called the Tatsang Monastery. It's a blissful drive, covered in mist, dense rhododendron forests, red, purple, the kind of colors you would want, and hairpin bends uncover amazing landscapes at every turn. As you drive up beyond the Taksang onto the Bumla Tawang road, the landscape completely changes to ice and snow as far as one could see, and no human in sight for miles and miles, as it's an armed forces area. In fact, the day we were driving down from there, it started snowing, and within 10 minutes, it became a thick blanket of white as far as one could see. And this was the scenario, this was the scene till we reached the Tri Junction, where a solitary armed forces canteen welcomes you to piping hot coffee in that cold. These 2.5 hours that I spent on the road, traveling from Zimithang to Tawang, are still etched very strong in my memory, and I think that's the best that I've seen in India.
That's quite a different one. Zimitang may not be in everyone's list, though it sounded mesmerizing when you spoke. The history, the scenic beauty, and the feel of the drive. What are your other ones?
Number two in my list is the drive from, actually, it's in Ladakh, the drive from Changla Pass to Durbok on the way to Pangong. Not exactly Durbong, but say Tangste Monastery. That's roughly around 60 odd kilometers because of the roads and the conditions. It takes around 2 odd hours to get there. And what happens is you drive through a plateau called the Changthang Cold Desert. Now, Changthang is one of the largest deserts in the world, cold desert, and almost I think it's the highest desert in the world. A part of eastern Ladakh falls under Changthang, and that brings in amazing amount of changing landscapes. You find swamps, you find desert sand, you find some streams, you find exotic flowers, you find the Tibetan wild ass, you find nomads, and it's a journey which is amazing. Uh, you are and sometimes passing through the Durbok stream with grasses and grassland around just to see or catch sand at the far end of the stream, then going on and on till you can't see any further. It's something to be felt, and anybody who goes to Pangong probably goes dreamy-eyed towards Pangong. But the drive from Changla to Durbok actually is mind-boggling, and it's on my number two. Number three on my list is far down in the south. It's from Bandipur in Karnataka through the forests of Bandipur and Masinagudi till you reach Ooty. I would say it's one of the most beautiful jungle trails that I have ever seen, complete with animal crossings, impeccable greenery with blooming gulmohars, and impressive Nilgiris in the background. It's roughly 70 odd kilometer drive that perhaps takes an hour, hour and a half. And drivers down south basically call this as 36 hairpin bends to paradise, this route. Uh, on you start from Bandipur in Karnataka, you cross over the border crossing between two states at Masinagudi. If you are too tired, you can just settle down into one of those amazing and many resorts and homestays in Masinagudi, from where you can watch the foothills of Nilgiris, and then you can do your slow and steady climb to beautiful Ooty. That's number three on my list. Number four on my list is a journey which one would find if one was trying to drive from Kedarnath to Joshimath. It actually is a section between Okhimath and Tungnath on the way to Chamoli. Roughly 40 kilometers an hour, but what beauty! From Okhimath, as you drive towards Chamoli with Chopta and Tungnath on the way, the grandeur of Himalaya, and with the Alaknanda uh, pass you every now and then, it is just heavenly. Uh, so green, so fresh, and so huge a landscape that you will really think that God somewhere resides in those areas. Number five on my list is the route between Manali and Kullu, but not the usual route that people take and drive up to, but the route through Nagar. So if you are starting from Manali and going to Kullu, you take the left bank on the river Beas and go through Nagar. Nagar used to be the capital of the medieval kingdom of Kullu, and has the famous and intricately carved Nagar castle as one stop, and also the glorious, expansive, and art-rich road-rich estate on that same road. The same road has a good view of Beas flowing down, and you have the the mountains on both sides, and the huge Manali Valley that one comes to see. It's a short drive, 40 kilometers, perhaps an hour, but that's a drive that leaves you filled up with amazing amount of positive energy, and you feel so relaxed and calm. Uh, going ahead, number six on my list is a short drive of around 2 hours between Binsar and the temple town of Jageshwar. In fact, town might be a misnomer. Jageshwar is probably a collection of 30 odd houses. This drive again from Binsar takes you almost near Almora, after which it just takes a turn and goes into the beautiful Jageshwar, amazing forests, very dense, very cold, uh, nice amazing breeze, greenery everywhere, and you find those 9th century old stone temples just made out of pure stones, assembled one on top of the other, as across the road you see from here and there. Jageshwar to Binsar is thus my number 6. Number 7, and the last one on my list, is the coastal stretch at NH66 from Udupi to Goa, that stretches from Udupi to Murdeshwar, Kumta, Gokarna, Karwar, and thereof to southern Goa of Kanakana, and then winds up somewhere near Varka. Uh, Around 320 odd kilometers, the longest by far on the drive that I've seen, roughly takes 7 hours. But it's like our own equivalent to the Great Ocean Road that you find in Australia. It's thanks to the Golden Quadrilateral and the development that's ways. This coastal road is very scenic to drive, very well laid out, and always clean in terms of traffic and or a lot of people going around. Uh, you have to experience this one to believe it. So that winds up my top 7 road trips that I really like in India.
Yeah, that was awesome. Very different from the top 10s one would usually find on the net. And I can recall each one of these. However, Sudeep, I think we should also talk about the road trips which are more feasible as far as the distances from the major cities are concerned. Road trips which can be taken over a weekend, say from Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai. What do you say?
Oh, yes, Delhi and Bangalore are blessed in the sense that they are inland and have many more options than, say, Mumbai, Chennai, and Kolkata. Here are my top of the mind recall road trips, if I would say. If you are in Delhi, Corbett, Nainital is one. The Golden Triangle of Jaipur, Agra back to Delhi is another one. The drive up to Rishikesh, Haridwar is another one. Or one could go slightly up north into Shimla through Chandigarh, as well as the western routes into Dehradun and Mussoorie. If you are in Mumbai, then the stretch from Lonavala to Pune to Mulchi is one. One could drive down for a longer trip to Goa. Another one is to the hill stations of Igatpuri and Nasik. Or you could do the longer stretch of Pune, Khandala, then Vai and Mahabaleshwar. Bangalore, as I said, has a lot many more options. One could do the Bandipur Ooty trip that I talked about, or you could go to the Kabini Coorg stretch, or you could go to the hill station town of Chikmagalur and Mulyangiri, or you could drive up north into the historic ruins of Hampi, or you could drive down towards the east, cross into Kerala, and go to Wayanad and Vaithari districts. These are some of the many that one could do from Bangalore. If you are in Chennai, from a weekend drive, I think you probably have Pondicherry and Mahabalipuram as the most obvious places to go to, if not Bangalore. The hill stations of Ooty and Kodaikanal are, I think, perhaps a longer drive for people who are in Chennai. How does that sound?
Wow, that inspires me to plan our next road trip as soon as possible. Before I get on to that, Sudeep, would you like to give some tips to our listeners on planning a road trip?
My pleasure. Everybody has the top 10, I think, and we should respect that. This is how we are all same and different. So if this has helped you think about our next trip, here are a few things that comes to my mind. Number 1, understand how much you are comfortable driving or riding each day, and hence what should be your destination and for how long. Some people are very comfortable driving long hours, some people probably require a break every 3 4 hours. So a trip decides itself basis your comfort. And so number 2 is that basis your comfort, break your road trip down into comfortable chunks. For example, for me, a Bangalore to Goa drive, which is roughly 550 kilometers, is a 2 day one side experience. Ensure that your Number 3, ensure that your car or your bike is well serviced before a long drive or a drive through a difficult terrain. Number 4, pack well for the road. I am talking from a car's perspective, but things like pillows for a nap, a food basket, easy to pick up a camera for a quick click, enough water bottle in all compartments, your fast tags recharged, shades, sanitizers, wallet, keep them handy, pack them well. Uh, One rule that I follow, and if it's comfortable with you, this is number five for me, is that drive only between sunrise and sunset. You drive in natural light provides you a better judgment of the road and objects, and also ensures that you get enough rest between one day and the other in case you're planning longer drives. Number six in my mind is that while navigating routes, one trusts Google or sometimes maybe Apple Maps, but also back it up with prior research and a friendly check with people on the road. My my common practice is to make an Excel sheet for a day each of my travel, and I plan to I just jot down where am I going to eat, what is going to be my driving route, where am I going to stay, how long is the drive, and how much time it will take, and hence what time should I leave a hotel or what time should I reach. It just helps me plan and be more comfortable. Lastly, number seven, it's a bit subjective, but I think for a car, if comfortable, drive with windows rolled up and maybe the AC on automatic, it tires you down less. You get lesser dirt, lesser sound, lesser wind drag. Also keeps the car clean and keeps the ambience same irrespective of if it's busy outside or serene outside. While you enjoy the wind, I think this helps the body at least adapt easier and lot lesser to the change outside. If you're riding bikes, ensure your gear is safe and comfortable. Apart from that, I think there is nothing much that I would say. It's just that you start, you drive, and enjoy what nature has given us.
Yeah, though I wouldn't agree to your last point. I personally don't like to travel within closed AC cars. I would prefer to breathe fresh air when on hills and in jungles than sit behind closed windows. However, of course, it's left to a person's choice. We'll end here for today, Sudeep. Thank you for sharing your experience and thanks a lot to our listeners. We shall get back to you soon with a new travel episode. In the meantime, you may write to us if you have any query related to travel planning. We would be more than happy to help you. Our mail ID is traveljohns1@gmail.com or you can write to us at contact@traveljohns.in. That's all for today, guys. Happy traveling!
Happy traveling.